If you'd like to, please subscribe. It helps me out a lot. I post every Wednesday. Hi, my name is Catherine and welcome to my channel. So today I wanted to talk about loneliness and something that I think everyone deals with at some point in their life. And this can be the most prevalent when you are traveling on your own, whether it's completely solo or going on a group tour on your own, or even moving abroad. And I've done all of the above, and I just wanted to talk about it and give some tips that I have learned myself and that's helped me get through loneliness while abroad. So I feel like the type of loneliness you will experience and the extent that you will experience it really depends on so many different factors. And a big one will be whether you are traveling for a short period of time alone or whether you have moved abroad for a longer time period alone. And when you are alone, I feel like a lot of times when you first go abroad, whether it's again a trip or you're moving abroad, the first few days will be the hardest. I moved to Australia by myself after undergraduate, and the day I got there, I was convinced that I was just gonna go back home because it kind of hit me when I landed that I had moved to this continent by myself and I don't know anybody and I'm completely on my own. Luckily, I didn't have to deal with a language barrier or anything of that level, but it's still just kind of a weird experience, and it took me a couple of days, if not more or less like a week or two, to kind of settle. But I would say my first tip is to not let those initial couple of days of what you're feeling determine the outcome of your trip and determine whether you stay or not. Give it some more time, and if you're still feeling it after a good chunk of time, then maybe reconsider. Also, remind yourself why you moved or are traveling in the first place. Are you there for an amazing work opportunity? Are you there because you got into a relationship and you're moving for them? Are you there because you're traveling and wanting to visit this amazing place? Just keep reminding yourself why you're there in the first place because something brought you out there. So another thing when dealing with loneliness is to say goodbye to your comfort zone and just really challenge yourself. And sometimes when we deal with hard things, we just kind of have to sit in that feeling and just kind of accept it rather than push it away. I've heard the same thing with anxiety from therapists, for example, to not try to push away and fight that anxiety. Same thing with loneliness. Just sit in it, accept it, and embrace it. And while you're at it, maybe do something outside of your comfort zone. For example, I would do daily tours on weekends because when I moved to Australia, I moved there for an internship. And so during the week, I might have not been as available, but on weekends, I would embrace it. I would travel and I would do things on my own and go on tours on my own, and I wouldn't be the only one doing them. Another thing is if you've moved abroad, to find other expats, make some kind of a community. For me, when I was in Australia, I remember joining different Facebook groups. I am Christian, so I joined a church, and even though I didn't make amazing friends that I hung out with often outside of the church environment, it still felt really nice on a weekly basis to go and be a part of a community. This church had a lot of like younger people, so they would have after church like happy hours or church groups or things like that, and I would always try and force myself to join those, and everyone was always really accepting. So definitely, even if you're not specifically finding like friends like right away, just to join some kind of a community and feel like you're a part of something will help greatly. And if you're traveling alone, then staying in hostels would be really helpful because again, you're in that community, there will be a lot of other solo travelers, and that will allow you to be able to make friends if you go into the common areas, if you go into the kitchen area, or there's always different events that hostels are putting together. And again, just putting yourself out there, which again, easier said than done. Or what I like to do is to go on group travel trips where you have that built-in community and it's throughout the entire trip. Because of hostels, it can be hard when people come and go all the time. You can make a really good friend and then they're leaving the next day or you're leaving the next day. Whereas with group travel trips, you will have these people the entirety of the 1-2 weeks, whatever length it is, tour that you're on, and you're able to really connect with those people that entire time. Another thing to do is to talk to your friends and family back home. Just because you have gone on a trip abroad, you've moved abroad, doesn't mean you're cutting off everything that you knew before. Obviously, there's a balance to everything. You want to make friends, you want to experience the newness of this place or these places, but again, your friends and family are there. We have technology. Another thing is a trip. Now, this is more so catered towards those that have moved abroad, because obviously if you're traveling abroad, you're already on a trip. So you have the excitement of the fact that you're traveling and seeing new places, which should help with the loneliness. Whereas if you've moved abroad, maybe taking a trip, whether it's a weekend trip or whatever you can manage given your circumstance. So for me, I took a lot of day trips on weekends. I also had a friend from back home who always dreamed of going to Australia. And so when she found out that I was living there for a few months, it was the perfect opportunity for her to come and visit. So we did a top deck trip where we started from Melbourne. Actually, wait, no, I flew from Melbourne up to Sydney, and then it started in Sydney and went all the way up to Cairns, which is like the top northeast corner of the continent. And that was a lot of fun. I was able to get 10 or so days off from work for that trip. Generally, I do pretty well on my own, so I think that's really helped me with these travel experiences. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if not only am I just naturally somebody who likes to be alone, but having all these experiences in the past where I was forced to be on my own has made me more comfortable being on my own, and kind of has made me just not necessarily more introverted, but has just better adapted me to just enjoy being on my own and know that like I'm truly my own best friend. Like no matter what, I will always be there for myself. Obviously I have people in my life that I can count on and I know will be there for me through whatever it may be, but I am truly my own best friend. And I just think that that's such a gift that I've just been able to learn, and I think everyone should learn to be very comfortable with themselves. So going over a last couple of points to help with loneliness is to just not focus too much with what you're missing back home. While you could have been at home continuing to do what you were doing, that version of you would be missing out on all the things that you're doing now abroad. And I feel like it's not very common people regret doing something that's scary, doing something that takes them out of their comfort zone, that goes abroad. Like you'll be that cool person that has so many cool stories. And I was even telling a friend recently who's right now abroad because she's in the military, and I was telling her like, hey, it may be hard that we're putting ourselves outside of our comfort zones. It may be lonely, but we have all these cool stories. And I feel like when we do things that scare us, they are the things that are the most rewarding and the things that make us grow the most, right? I feel like we've all kind of heard this at some point in our lives. But at the same time, it is important to talk about how we feel. So whether it is journaling or talking to a video camera or calling friends and family back home or with new friends abroad, just to be able to talk to someone, or even like get a therapist online, they're available. Letting it out from your mind out on paper or just vocally and audibly out oftentimes does help. Another thing is establishing a routine if you're moving abroad. I know I'm kind of going back and forth a lot between traveling abroad and moving abroad, but I wanted to cover both just because I've done both, but I also know they're very different. And I think when you're actually moving abroad, to establish a routine could be a very good thing as well. Just because back home you most likely had a routine, and people find comfort in routines. So for the most part, outside of you trying new things and traveling, just for the majority of the time to have a routine, that I think is important and can help a lot. Like for me, when I lived in Australia, of course I interned, so from Monday through Friday, I would wake up at a certain time, get ready, breakfast, like that whole normal routine. I would get to the metro station, I would metro into work, and then I would have a work day, and I usually went to the same place for lunch because it was outside the city, so there wasn't really as many lunch spots around. And then I would trek back, I would get my boba, I would walk around and do some shopping or window shopping, and just kind of enjoy the downtown area. I would maybe get dinner somewhere on my own or order food and take it home, things like that. And I do love the end of the day, like relaxing in my bed, watching some Netflix, some YouTube, whatever it may be. So I made a routine for myself. And I guess another thing with eating on your own, that could be really hard for people, but you gotta eat. So I think with that, sometimes you just have to embrace it and just remember that no one's paying attention to you. Everyone's just worrying about themselves. So no one's honestly really noticing that you're on your own. You can always take baby steps too. You can start by, ordering food for pickup and taking it home. Then you could go to like a food court. maybe you can go to like a bar situation and sit at the bar and talk to the bartender. That may be more for drinking, not as much food, but sometimes there's like restaurants that have bars, and then kind of work your way up. You don't have to learn to like go to a sit down like 5-star restaurant with white tablecloths on your own or anything like that, but just like doing baby steps. I think for me, like food courts were something that, you know, a lot of people eat on their own at. Another things is just making your home where you're at more homey, getting things that will help make it more cozy. I got little twinkle lights. I really was able to just kind of find things in stores around to just kind of make it more homey. I had a tiny room. If I could find a picture, I will show you, but it was a walk-in closet. I'm not kidding you. Like my roommates, I had a roommate, and her room was a normal room. It was like 3 times, if not more, the size of my room, and I think mine was just like the walk-in closet. It had like a sliding glass door, and I had to put like a curtain so she couldn't just see me sleeping as she walked by. It was a bit absurd, my rooming situation. So hopefully yours is a lot better, but I was able to, you know, do the twinkle lights and make it like a little cozy cove. And another thing is to just not sit home much at all and just to get out there. So for me, when I wasn't working, I would again be like during the weekdays just kind of exploring the downtown area. Also just making that, you know, community. If you're feeling up for it, you can join like a dating app, go on some dates safely in public. But yeah, there's just so many things to do. And then during the week, I would go on day trips, and then when I was able to, I'd go on longer weekend trips or week plus trips. But really just kind of do trial and error, and it's just a blend of making your place feel homey, going out and about and not staying at home too much, making your routine while you're at home, but then also traveling a bunch. So I hope this helped, and let me know if you've ever felt loneliness abroad, what you've done to help fight it, or if you're planning to be abroad. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day or night whenever you're seeing this, and I hope to see you in a future video of mine. Bye!